Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Matt Tebow from Stacked, and right now I am joined by GG mid laner Ablazeolive. How are you doing, man? Glad to see you're feeling better.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I feel a lot better for sure.
Yeah, of course. And getting into the games real quick, walk me through the set in the first games. How did you feel about the set overall with your team?
Well, I'm happy that I even got to play. I wasn't really sure I was going to be able to play, so I'm really happy that I got to play. I think, like my own personal inability to play the game for the past few days, was pretty prevalent in this series. I think the first game was actually pretty solid. I think we, played pretty well, despite the lack of practice with me. And, I think the game could have gone either way, and they ended up playing better, so they got the victory in the end. Game two, we kind of got destroyed, but it happens. I'm just glad that we even got to play these extra games. Probably not many people expected us to be able to play in this, like get to the quarters in this event. So I'm happy that we got here, and I'm happy that we actually got to use them with our full roster.
Of course, and I'm glad to hear that you're feeling better, man. Just curious, how much time elapsed between the decision for you to play in the set?
Um, well, there's like a roster lock that you have
Yeah.
to submit the day before. So we had to, like, I didn't think I was going to be able to play unless the stone passed. So since it hadn't passed for a really long time, I just assumed that wasn't really going to happen. So since I was not going to be able to play, we didn't have me on the starting roster, but um, basically I was just kind of doing what I normally do when you have like when you what you normally do when you have a kidney stone, which is just drink lots of water and just hope that it passes. And it did at like 11 a.m., which is like
2 hours.
3 hours before our
Two or
game
three
starts.
hours, yeah.
So yeah, I had to like rush everything. I had to like do everything. I'd like get out of bed and like do everything. So I wasn't sure I was playing, even up until, you know, probably like an hour before when I actually got there, and they're like, yeah, we're just gonna swap. Riot allowed us to like put me back in. We just had to lose our fifth ban and pay a fine, which I'm really happy that they did, so that we could play an extra game. Um, so yeah, I mean, it was just a really crazy day.
Yeah.
I was really frustrated, especially today, because today was like by far the worst day it's ever been. But I'm glad that it's gone
Oof.
now.
Man, yeah, like I said, I'm really glad you're feeling better. Kidney stones ain't anything to mess around with, man. And I'm sure it just feels like night and day playing League as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. It feels like everything like doesn't hurt anymore. Like everything always hurt before when I was playing, but now like it's just that nice feeling of like nothing's wrong. So like my
Mhm.
body's normal, and like it's you never know what you have until you lose it. So
Yeah.
I'm really happy that I have this back and I don't have to feel pain constantly. So that was very nice.
I'm glad to hear that's the case, man. Back to the game real quick. Game 1 and Game 2, you guys made some significant adjustments in picks and bans. I wanted you to walk me through the adjustments you made after Game 1 going into Game 2.
Yeah, sure. So um I wasn't there for a lot of the draft prep, so I'm not like super well versed in like our entire like draft sort of strategy. But without going like too much into it, I think that the first game we got pretty much everything that we wanted. We didn't really have like any surprise picks, um, and I think you know the game being a loss was just like we didn't play as well as they did. They played better than us, so they got the win. And I think, yeah, we definitely could have probably drafted something differently and made things better. But I mean, we didn't have a fifth ban, which was pretty bad. So it was kind of tough with that specifically because in the second round of phase, we had to ban something and then they got two bans back to back, which is not something you ever have to deal with normally. So that was an awkward issue. But overall, it wasn't that bad. Um, we, like in terms of draft, like I think everything was fine. The adjustments that we made, probably the biggest one was like picking Kaisa. Um, I think that um, like Aphelios is really really strong right now, and he kind of can like 1v9 games. So like we had a lot of priority on that, and then we're also swapping sides. So now we're on from red to blue. So we thought that we could set up a better situation with Kaisa. Um, and I think our draft in the second game was actually fine. I think we just played poorly. I mean, I wasn't super expecting the rise, but that wasn't like completely random. Um, but I think like the second game was fine, but we just got both neutrals snuck in the early game, which kind of blew, and um, the I kind of entered the game at like 10 minutes top lane and ruined everything, so that wasn't good. But I think our draft was actually probably better in the second game, but I mean, since it's like a best of 3, there's always a lot of adjustments, and especially since I wasn't like there for all the draft prep and stuff, like it was really wild, so we didn't have a lot of practice on what we were doing. And so, I mean, I think our drafts were fine. I think definitely they could have been better, like they always can be, but I think they were definitely playable. We could have won with both for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I saw you guys banned Renekton in the first round of bans. Is that something you guys were looking to do right after game one? It's like, get rid of Renekton. We don't want to deal with that anymore. Or did it just kind of come as a matter of course from what you were planning to do?
No, I don't think we thought the Renekton was that big of a problem in the first game. I haven't like heard how other people really think about it, but I think we were just we Renekton's not a very uncommon ban on blue side, because it's a lot stronger on red side for like diving and having like a better draft situation because you're always going to get counter pick on top or bot lane, so it's a lot safer to go for something like Renekton. But yeah, I mean, we banned it not because of the game before. It was just, I mean, Impact doesn't have like the biggest champion pool, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't a specific target ban or because of the game before.
Okay. And moving on from Impact onto Evil Geniuses as a whole, what do you think of the way they played and how like their team synergy? How would you describe the way they've been playing this whole tournament?
I mean, obviously, I think they've been looking really impressive. I think the one game that they lost was definitely an outlier, not like an indication that they're not as good as everyone thinks. Mainly because they left open Olaf and then kind of got steamrolled by it. So I think at least in NA, Olaf is like really, really high prio, and not very many teams are leaving that champ open because it just seems like it gets destroyed every time you leave it open. So, I mean, we'll see if people figure out more about how to deal with that champion, but I feel like EG has been playing pretty well. Ignar has definitely, always been really good, but is definitely performing. I think probably the biggest surprise for me and for a lot of people is how well Jizuke is playing. I think Jizuke has been been known to play like sort of off meta stuff, but I mean, he's kind of mixing his off meta stuff with like the actual meta champions and doing it very well and still playing with his style. So I've been most impressed with Jizuke. I think he's been playing a lot better than everyone expected. So I think him, Ignar, and then just sort of the stacked top side of Svenskar and Impact. They have built-in synergy from when they're on C9 together. So, they just have a pretty strong roster, strong players, and I think that it's not surprising that they're doing very well. Obviously, it's not expected that they're going to do as well as they have, but we'll see how the lock-in tournament plays out. They probably only won one game that people thought they were going to lose, and so that's not a big sample size, but they look like they've been playing pretty well. We were close to beating them in the first game. Could have definitely gone either way. FlyQuest did beat them, and they looked relatively dominant in that game. So, yeah, I'm impressed with EG so far.
For sure. This is kind of like a pair of questions here. What can fans expect from Golden Guardians going forward, and what can they expect from you going forward?
Sure. So I think the biggest thing that Golden Guardians is trying to focus on is just the consistent improvement. I think that very often there are teams in every league that sort of explode from internal issues, whether that be coaching, whether that be player turmoil, whether that be anything, right? So I think the one thing that I'm extremely confident about is that we're not going to have that problem. We're not expected to, win the split. We're not expected to, make worlds. That's not what our goal is. Our goal is just to make sure we have that consistent improvement. So there's not going to be that fear in my mind of if we just don't work out and everyone just like explodes, like we're just going to deteriorate into the worst team. Like I'm really confident, especially with our excellent coaching staff, that we're just going to keep improving and that's not necessarily true for other teams, right? Not every team has that sort of same mentality as us, where we're playing for, just consistent improvement, not playing to get to Worlds. And there are definitely some susceptible teams to sort of just getting burned out, or some sort of inner turmoil happens and they sort of deteriorate, right? So I'm not going to name any names or teams, but that's something that I think is going to be a big positive for us, is that we're always getting better. It may not look like it, just depending on who we play or how we play the exact day, but I'm really confident that we're always going to be getting better. And for me specifically, I think that it's a very similar goal, right? Just always improving. It took me a year in Academy to go from like just playing in Academy to being like one of the best mids in Academy. And I don't see why that shouldn't be the case in LCS. So my goal for this year is just to be, improving to the point where I can contest the best mid in LCS in every single game, no matter what the situation, and just sort of not being inherently worse than any other mid or any other player in any sort of way. I don't want to like hyper focus on one style. I want to be able to play everything and do everything. So I think that's just going to be my biggest focus for this coming up year.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Once again, this is Golden Guardians mid laner Ablazeolive, and this is Matt Tebow from Stack. You can find our articles at stack.gg, and you can follow us on all of our socials at stack.lol. Ablazeolive, thank you so much for your time, man, and good luck in the LCS.
Thank you very much.